Take advantage of the oil change special now through the end of June at Helmuth Ford in Sigourney. Must use complimentary pickup and delivery. It's simple, fast, convenient, and has a 27-point inspection. All for $49.99 plus tax. Call today to schedule an appointment at Helmuth Ford, 641-622-3260. Includes up to 6 quarts of Motorcraft oil and oil filter. Excludes diesel vehicles. For more information, go to helmuthford.com. Remember, must use complimentary pickup and delivery. It's the oil change special now through June 30th at Helmuth Ford in Sigourney. Muse Music Store and Mahaska County Conservation Board presents Eveland Access Summerfest Music by the River 2024. June 1st from noon to 10 p.m. featuring 8 musical artists with live music, activities like bingo, sand volleyball, and cornhole, food, and much, much more. It's a free event at the Eveland Access Campgrounds at 2890 Galveston Avenue, Oskaloosa. Bring a friend and have a lot of fun at the Eveland Access Summerfest 2024 Music by the River, June 1st from noon to 10 at the Eveland Access Campgrounds.
Welcome to this edition of Morgan You Asked For podcast. Wednesday night, the 22nd of May. Solo tonight. Trevor was back this weekend. Saw him on Monday night. He's traveling back and not made it back quite yet, so tonight didn't work out. So you have me solo tonight. A little bit different topic here tonight. It's not flashy or anything big, but it is a huge paradigm shift in college athletics that is starting to take place. The dominoes are starting to fall. Conferences are voting. The Board of Governors is voting to settle a lawsuit. It's called the House versus NCAA. I don't know why it's called that, but essentially what this is doing is setting up a $2.7 billion fund to pay players, both players in the past and then future players coming up. As we all know, the NCAA for years and years has benefited to the tune of billions and billions and billions of dollars of money and not paying the labor, which is why you see college coaches, college facilities making just as much, if not more, than the pros, and then the facilities are nicer for colleges than they are in the pros because they don't have to pay their athletes. You know, Bill Belichick might have been making $15 million a year or $20 million a year, but Tom Brady was making 30. You know, Dak Prescott is making 25 or $30 million. They're making a lot more money than all the coaches, the GMs, the athletic, you know, and the athletic directors on the college side. They've been able to fund all these facilities and pay all the coaches and increase their staffs because they haven't had to pay the players. Well, that is changing and changing quickly. I've got a few stats here that I'm going to kind of read that I've wrote down here. The Big 12 and the ACC voted to settle on Tuesday. Today, the NCAA Board of Governors and the Big Ten voted for the settlement to agree to the settlement. And then with the Pac-12, which actually still has to vote this because these schools are not made the transfer to the Big 12 or Big 10 or ACC until July 1. So the Pac-12 actually still exists as a conference. The last thing they're going to do as a conference vote is essentially going to vote to pay your players. And once, you know, the SEC and the Pac-12 do it, then it's going to come down to more lawyer stuff. There's going to be settlements. There's going to be back and forth, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second. But they're settling this because the agreement is like 2.7 billion, but if it would go to trial, it'd be like 4.2 billion. So they're saving about half. And now just a few more things on this. I just have this written down here. 2.7 billion. I've said that a couple times already, to former athletes, and it will allow schools in round numbers to pay players $20 million from each school. Almost like a salary cap-ish on the university. That is not per player. That is not per team. That is, for example, Iowa State paid $20 million how they want, kind of how they want. And that's going to be another thing argued in court on who gets what. And Iowa will have that. LSU will have $20 million. Texas A&M, Florida, Georgia, all of the schools. Drake could have $20 million to pay players. Now, that's a whole different argument. Drake, UNI, those schools that are Division I, this is all Division I NCAA schools, which Drake is, UNI is, it'd be like North Dakota State would be. Now, Division IIs like Northwest Missouri State or Truman State or Upper Iowa, those schools are not in on this. This is Division I athletics. So essentially, you got to think if they play Division I, the bowl subdivision football, or the FCS, the championship division, and then all the NCAA tournament schools for basketball. And that's where this money is coming from. Essentially, the NCAA's biggest money maker is the NCAA tournament. So they're going to take a 10-year reduction. I think I have it on here, $1.6 billion over 10 years in reduction of the NCAA tournament revenues. 40% of that is going to be the big, soon to be four. It's really the big five conferences, soon to be the big four as of July 1. But those schools are going to take up 40%. Now, there's only 60 schools roughly in that, maybe a little more, that's eating 40%. But 60% of this is from all the other schools. Now, there's like 300 schools, so that's like 250 schools that have to come up with 60%. However, those are the schools that don't make the money. This is all about football. Unfortunately, basketball doesn't matter. Your wrestling team, your women's basketball team, they don't produce the same revenue that football does. Football is about 85% of revenue to each school. Then the 15% is everything else, plus your royalties, plus everything. But 85% is football. So you have to make money in football. Well, Drake doesn't even have Division I, doesn't have scholarship football. UNI, does not make money in football. The way they make their money in football is going to play Iowa State or Iowa or Wisconsin or whoever, the Division I, and they get paid $1 million. That funds their program. And then they get NCAA tournament money from their conference. So that is one thing that, most people know, but when a Missouri Valley team gets into the NCAA tournament and they win 1 or 2 or 3 games, the NCAA gives the Missouri Valley Conference a check, and then the Missouri Valley Conference distributes that check to each school. Now, if you are the team that are playing those, I think you get a little bit bigger cut. But even like this year where you and I did not get into the NCAA tournament, and Drake did get in the NCAA tournament, Drake's going to get a little bit bigger check, but you and I still get to check from the NCAA tournament because just how everything works. Iowa State gets a check from the Big 12 gets a check when all their each game that's played gets a certain amount of money, and then it gets just distributed back to the conference and then distributed back to each school. So that's how all these TV rights, and when Iowa State's on Fox on a Sunday afternoon for basketball or whatever, that is what this is all about, is your TV money and your TV rights. And what's going to happen is these athletes are going to be essentially the same thing. I'm kind of getting my head of myself there. I'm going to come back to that. So, beginning of 2025, there's going to be roughly $20 million a school. Now, there's not going to be a lot of schools that are going to do that. The Power 4 conferences will, I would suspect. Iowa State would be, I think, will be hard pressed to do that, to get all the way to 20 million. Now, there's certain schools that won't have a problem with it, but I think Iowa State's I think they need to get there if they want to compete. But they're going to have to make some decisions. And there's always unintended consequences to all these decisions and settlements that are happening. Do the athletes deserve to get paid? Absolutely. I have changed my mind. I have flipped on that subject. 5 years ago, I absolutely not. They get a lot of advantages that your normal college student does not get, but they also do a lot more. And the amount of money that the schools are making and the conferences are making and coaches are making, athletic director, just everybody's making a lot of money. And it is time for the players to get it. And I 100% agree. The NIL was a great step. Unfortunately, it went right past the NIL into pay for play. All these collectives are paying these guys. Yes, are they agreeing to go to these charities and doing things and getting paid? Yes, but it's not overall, it's pay for play. And they should be. When you are playing the NCAA championship football game, when, how many 25 million people watch it or whatever it is, you should get a cut of that. And they are. So I agree with what's happening. But here's this is going to take several months to sort out the actual details, because they're going to come back and there's going to be mediation back and forth. Some things that need to get solved. Title IX. Title IX is about equal opportunity for males and females, not equal result. That's where some people do not get confused. It is about opportunity. And unfortunately, just the way it is, that football makes all the money. I believe there's going to be, those players are going to get paid more than everybody else. And they probably deservedly so, because they're the ones bringing in the revenue. And then they're going to try to curtail the NIL market. Right now, it's just the wild, wild west. I think there's going to be some guardrails. The NILs will not go away. These athletes will become employees of the university or some very close variation of it. But NIL is not going away, and I'll talk about why in just a few minutes here.